The sun was just starting to set over the small town of Concord, New Hampshire, casting a golden glow over the bustling main street. Among the weekend crowd, a small wooden table stood out on the sidewalk. On it, neatly arranged, were beautiful, hand-painted canvases, bright, colorful depictions of flowers, landscapes, and animals. Behind the table sat a young girl named Emily Carter, no older than 12, her blonde hair tucked under a knitted beanie. Despite her warm smile, there was an undeniable exhaustion in her pale blue eyes. Emily had been sitting outside for hours, bundled up in a slightly oversized jacket, greeting passers-by with hopeful enthusiasm. A small handwritten sign next to her paintings read, "Art for sale, help me beat cancer." The truth behind those words was heartbreaking. Emily had been diagnosed with leukemia nearly a year ago. Her parents, both hard-working but financially struggling, had already drained their savings on medical bills, and their insurance barely covered the treatments she needed. Instead of feeling helpless, Emily decided to do what she did best: paint. She had loved art for as long as she could remember. Painting made her feel free, like she could escape the reality of hospital visits, needles, and endless medications. So, she started selling her artwork to help pay for her chemotherapy treatments, setting up her small stand every weekend in hopes that kind-hearted strangers would support her cause. But today had been slow. Hours had passed, and she had only sold 2 small paintings. People walked by, some smiling sympathetically, but not stopping. Others admired her work, but didn't buy anything. A few even ignored her completely. Emily tried not to feel discouraged. She kept reminding herself to stay positive. But deep down, fear gnawed at her. What if she couldn't sell enough paintings? What if she couldn't afford her next round of treatment? As she was lost in thought, a group of teenagers passed by. One of them, a boy wearing a hoodie, smirked as he nudged his friend. "Hey, check this out." "Help me beat cancer." Man, that's sad. Emily flinched at the sarcasm in his voice, but didn't respond. She had encountered rude comments before. She kept her eyes on her paintings, gripping her paintbrush tightly, pretending not to hear them. Then, something unexpected happened. A sleek black car pulled up near the sidewalk. The door opened, and a well-dressed woman stepped out. She had long, wavy blonde hair and wore a navy blue coat, her heels clicking against the pavement as she approached. People turned their heads, recognizing her immediately. Karoline Leavitt, the rising political star and White House press aide. Emily barely noticed. She was too focused on a potential customer, a woman in a business suit who had slowed down to glance at her artwork. Emily smiled hopefully. "Would you like to buy a painting?" she asked sweetly. The woman hesitated before shaking her head. "Sorry, sweetie, not today." Emily's heart sank, but she forced herself to stay cheerful. "That's okay. Thanks for looking." Karoline Leavitt had overheard the exchange as she walked closer, her sharp eyes scanning the little stand. She took in the sign, the paintings, and the frail yet determined girl behind them. Something in her heart tightened. She had been in the political world long enough to know how tough life could be for regular American families, especially when faced with something as devastating as cancer. She had spent years advocating for better healthcare policies, but here, in front of her, was a young girl fighting for her own survival. Not through protests or speeches, but through her passion. Karoline stopped in front of Emily's table, her gaze softening. Emily looked up, blinking in surprise. She recognized Karoline immediately from the news, but was too shocked to say anything. Karoline smiled gently. "Are these your paintings?" Emily nodded quickly. "Yes. I painted all of them myself." Karoline picked up one of the canvases, a breathtaking sunset over the mountains. "They're beautiful." She glanced at the sign again, then back at Emily. "You're raising money for your chemo, right?" Emily nodded again, swallowing hard. "Yes, ma'am." Karoline took a deep breath, then reached into her purse. She had just made a decision that would change Emily's life forever. A hush seemed to fall over the busy street as Karoline Leavitt reached into her purse, Emily watched, her heart pounding. Was she really about to buy a painting? Karoline pulled out her wallet and examined the artwork in front of her. The sunset painting she had picked up was breathtaking, but as she scanned the table, her eyes landed on another piece. A small but striking canvas of a lighthouse standing tall against a stormy sea. "This one," Karoline said, picking it up. "It's powerful," Emily smiled shyly. "That's my favorite. The lighthouse stays strong even when the waves try to knock it down." Karoline nodded, clearly moved. "That's a perfect message." Then she did something that made Emily's breath catch in her throat. She pulled out 5 $100 bills and placed them on the table. Emily's eyes widened. "Wait, this painting is only $20. Karoline shook her head. "No, sweetheart, your work is worth much more than that, and so are you." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Karoline said warmly. Then she turned to the small crowd that had started gathering around. Some had been passing by, others had stopped when they noticed the political figure, but now all eyes were on Emily. Karoline took a deep breath and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "This young girl is not just an artist, she's a fighter. She's battling cancer and using her talent to help pay for her treatment. That should inspire every single one of us." The people in the crowd exchanged glances, some looking guilty for having walked past without stopping. A businessman in a gray suit cleared his throat. "I'll take one," he said, reaching for a painting. "Me too," another woman added. And just like that, the energy shifted. One by one, people began stepping forward, pulling out their wallets and buying Emily's artwork. Some even gave money without taking a painting, simply wanting to help. Emily sat there in stunned silence, watching as her once ignored paintings disappeared from the table, replaced by stacked bills and donations. Her mother, who had been sitting a few feet away, rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. She placed a hand on Emily's shoulder, unable to speak. Karoline turned to Emily with a smile. "Looks like business is booming." Emily laughed through her tears. "I can't believe this is happening." Karoline kneeled beside her and spoke softly so only Emily could hear. "You remind me of why I do what I do. You don't give up even when life gets unfair. You're strong, stronger than most adults I know." Emily wiped her eyes. "I just don't want to lose this fight." Karoline squeezed her hand. "You won't, and I promise. I'll make sure of that." Then Karoline stood up and addressed the crowd again. "If a 12-year-old girl can fight this hard, the least we can do is stand beside her." She looked around. "Oh, who's with me?" A cheer erupted. People clapped, some even shouting encouragement toward Emily. As the excitement grew, one man in the crowd pulled out his phone and started recording. Within minutes, the moment was all over social media. But what happened next, that was even more unbelievable. The next morning, Emily woke up to the sound of her mom's phone buzzing repeatedly on the nightstand. She groggily turned over, rubbing her tired eyes as her mom let out a gasp. "Oh my God," her mother whispered. Emily sat up, suddenly alert. "What's wrong?" Her mom turned the phone around, and Emily's jaw nearly dropped. Her face was everywhere. News headlines, social media posts, and even videos of what had happened yesterday were going viral. Little girl sells paintings for cancer treatment. Karoline Leavitt steps in and changes everything. A heartwarming act of kindness leaves the internet in tears. Thousands of people had shared her story, and in just a few hours, strangers from all over the country had started donating to a fundraiser that she and her mom had created weeks ago. Emily scrolled in shock, her fingers trembling, as she read comment after comment. "No child should have to fight alone. Donating now. Stay strong, Emily." What a brave little girl. Wishing her a full recovery. "Karoline Leavitt, you are an angel. We need more leaders like you." Then Emily's mom let out a choked sob. Emily looked up. "Mom?" Her mother turned the phone back around. Emily's fundraiser had just hit $250,000. Tears filled Emily's eyes. That's enough for all of my treatment," Her mother nodded, her hands shaking as she wiped away her tears. "Sweetheart, you're going to be okay." Before Emily could even process everything, a knock came at the door. Her mom opened it, and there stood Karoline Leavitt, holding a canvas-wrapped package. "May I come in?" Karoline asked with a smile. Emily jumped up from the bed. "You're here!" Karoline stepped inside and sat down next to Emily. "I had to see you after everything that happened." She glanced at Emily's phone and grinned. "Looks like the world knows about your story now." Emily laughed through her tears. "It's crazy! I can finally afford my treatment." Karoline squeezed her hand. "You deserve this, Emily. You never gave up, and now you don't have to fight alone." Emily looked at the package Karoline had brought. "What's that?" Karoline's smile grew. "I have a little surprise for you." She handed Emily the package, and as Emily peeled back the paper, she gasped. It was a framed photo of her and Karoline from the fundraiser yesterday, but in the corner, written in gold ink, was a personal message. "To Emily, a true warrior, keep shining, keep fighting. The world is a better place because of you. Karoline Leavitt." Emily clutched the frame to her chest, overwhelmed with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. Karoline's eyes softened. "No, sweetheart. Thank you for reminding all of us what real strength looks like." At that moment, Emily realized something. It wasn't just about the money or the help she had received. It was about hope. And thanks to one person's kindness, she had a second chance at life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Emily's journey reminds us that even in our darkest moments, kindness can bring hope and change lives in ways we never imagined. Karoline Leavitt's act of compassion wasn't just about money. It was about reminding a little girl that she wasn't alone. What would you have done in Karoline's place? Let us know in the comments. And remember, even the smallest act of kindness can make a world of difference. See you in the next story.